Another development in the Charlie Kirk assassination took place yesterday when the New York Post obtained and published the highly disputed letter that was written by Charlie Kirk and sent to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier this year in May. This letter was disputed heavily by the likes of Candace Owens, calling Netanyahu a liar by omission after he brought it up on Fox News.
You know, he said, he wrote me a letter on May 2nd this year. He said, one of my greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel and forming alliances to defend Judeo-Christian civilization. A few weeks before the tragedy yesterday, I called him and I spoke to him and I said, please come to Israel. I invited him to Israel. And sadly, that visit will not take place. But he was a defender of our common Judeo-Christian civilization. He was unbelievably excited to walk in the footsteps of Jesus here.
Candace again posting days later repeating that she knows Bibi lied about the letter, implying that she knows the contents of the letter and furthermore, that the letter is expressing negative sentiments about Israel, not positive ones. A compilation put together by Milk Bar TV shows all of the claims Candace made on air about this letter before being disproven.
So there definitely is a little bit more to the story. First and foremost, that letter he is holding up, he is severely misrepresenting. Those sentences are real, but I am calling upon Bibi Netanyahu, the dear friend to Charlie Kirk, to publish the letter's entire contents. Like, don't start with just 2 sentences. Publish the entire thing. You're holding it. I'm saying you're severely misrepresenting the contents, that in May, Charlie was concerned about Israel and their influence on American politics and how they were pushing things that he felt were in conflict with his beliefs, free speech here in America. Bibi's holding it up like Charlie just in May said, hey, you know what? I just want to write a love letter to Israel. That's how it was presented. Would you guys agree? That's not how it happened. Let's stop saying how Charlie felt. And instead, if you're going to hold up the letter, release it in its entirety. Okay? And lies by severe omission, I'd like to be very clear, are lies. And does anybody want to jump in and say, no, yeah, the letter Charlie wrote him in May was just like a glowing, he just was overcome with passion and said, I love Israel. You guys are amazing. You're beautiful. We're going to win this thing and you're perfect and doing nothing wrong. Love you, Bibi. Homie very quickly told us that Charlie was penning love letters to him in May. I just find that weird that no one wants to address the substance of the claims here, whether or not maybe Bill himself has an opinion on whether Bibi lied by severe omission when he mentioned his last correspondences with Charlie. And you're doubling down on your lie. I told you to publish the full letter that Charlie wrote you, not lines of it. Okay? So lie by omission, doing Fox News and Greta Van Sustern's show. He lied about the contents of a letter that Charlie Kirk had written him.
Remember on September 18th, I reported about a letter that Charlie Kirk wrote to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, what was exactly in it? Well, the New York Post got a hold of that letter. They've now published it, and it's exactly what I reported. Now, Charlie Kirk expressing his love for Israel, warning about the disinformation war, and really urging Israel to do better when it comes to social media and how to reach the younger people. No attacks on Israel, just advice on how to fight lies and reach the next generation. I'm not going to read the 7 pages, but it says, everything written here is from a place of deep love for Israel and the Jewish people. Israel is losing the information war and needs a communications intervention. Then he goes on to say, Mr. Prime Minister, I urge you, in caps, to revamp your information war strategy from top to bottom. It's exactly what I said, what was in the letter.
Can anybody actually work and assert that I am lying? You can say my name. Candace Owens lied.
But why does it matter? Well, the disputed element surrounding the killing of Charlie Kirk is who actually is behind it, with Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Max Blumenthal, and others pushing the idea that Israel is the culprit. However, the linchpin to that entire theory is this idea that Charlie in his final months was beginning to turn on Israel after being one of their greatest American assets for years. The letter shows the opposite. I'm not even joking, the Israel glazing starts within the first sentence and it does not get better as you make your way through it. Enter in Nick Fuentes, who took and still is taking heat for his immediate position against the Israel angle, writing on his Telegram, Big surprise. It in fact does not foreshadow an imminent reversal of Kirk's lifelong support for Israel. Nick had this to say to Candace in response of the letter being published.
Candace implies that Netanyahu is misrepresenting the actual substance or tone of the letter and is completely distorting the sentiment or the meaning of it. She seemed to imply that the letter was critical of Israel or anti-Israel, or maybe foreshadowing that Charlie Kirk would one day turn on Israel. So, after Netanyahu held up the letter, she said, if you keep saying that, I will reveal the letter. Well, she never did. It's been 3 weeks. She has not shown us the letter. She has not told us anything in it. She has not told us the contents of the letter, the tone of the letter. She has not given us a copy of it. She has confirmed its existence. The existence of such a letter is not in dispute, but we have gotten nothing from her. So that leads us to believe that either she was lying and does not actually have the letter, or she is withholding the letter for some reason. I can't imagine why. If the letter contained evidence that Charlie Kirk was turning against Israel, then surely that would be relevant and of extreme public import, because that would be written, hard evidence that Charlie Kirk was against Israel, and that would give us some evidence as to a motive of why the Israeli government might want to take him out. So either she never had it and she lied, and all she knew about the letter was hearsay, and she exaggerated what she knew about it, but either didn't have it or maybe didn't exactly know what was in it, and that's why she falsely called Netanyahu a liar, or she's withholding it for some reason, in which case I would say, and I reiterate, I don't know why people are telling me I'm covering things up. I'm doing the opposite. I want to put the pressure on Candace Owens. Give us all of the evidence that you have. If Israel killed Charlie Kirk, then, we need to go to war with Israel. If a foreign government assassinated a powerful American on U.S. soil because he opposed America's entry into their war, everyone needs to know that. The public needs to know that. The government needs to know that. And if the government is engaged in a cover-up, then the public needs to know to expose the cover-up. So I am once again reiterating, I implore Candace Owens, if you have a copy of the letter, a different version of the letter, or maybe it's this letter, you have to release it immediately, because the public will move on from this. The further we get from the assassination, the less public interest, the less public pressure, and if there is some cover-up, the more they will be able to cover up their tracks or produce misinformation or disinformation. So if you have a copy of the letter, which is not this letter, then you have to release it. We need to see it. I need to see it. The public needs to see it. The world needs to see it.
I have to agree with Asuka Groiper here. I don't think that Candace Owens ever saw the letter either, and if anything, was going off of minimal text message exchanges she was having with Charlie. It also doesn't help she is fighting a seven-front war with the Macrons either. And I also agree with Evan Kilgore, who highlights just how desperate the letter comes off as, calling it borderline cuckery. Now Nick calls out this cuckery, highlighting elements of the letter and asking if begging for foreign propaganda is a good position to have.
If Charlie Kirk is writing a letter to the Prime Minister of Israel begging him to assault Americans with foreign propaganda, do you think that's a good position to have? Glorious Prime Minister, many blessings upon Israel and the Jews. I proudly defend you every day, but I beg you to assault my country with foreign propaganda more effectively. Does that sound like foreshadowing a radical reversal on Israel? In his infamous interview with Megyn Kelly in August, where he said that he was tired of being called an anti-Semite, did Charlie Kirk say, I'm done supporting Israel? Did he say, I criticize Israel? His words exactly were, if I keep getting called an anti-Semite, you're never going to lose me, he said, but you're going to dampen and deflate your biggest warriors. That was from August. That's the interview where everybody said he was red-pilled. In May, he's begging Netanyahu, please do a better job in my country with pro-Israel propaganda. In July, he's hosting a focus group. Well, we could criticize Netanyahu, but, we don't support Hamas. We all still love Israel. And maybe we could agree not to talk about it anymore, right? In August, if you keep calling me an anti-Semite, well, you're not going to lose me, but I'll be a deflated warrior for Israel. It's very clear what was going on here. And the letter just makes it unambiguous. Every single argument that has been made about Charlie Kirk turning on Israel has basically just been exposed. And the only reason people say you're arguing so hard in defense, it's because it is simply not true. It just is not true. And what I think the GOP is doing is they're trying now to bring the Israel critical side into support for the GOP, pretending that Charlie Kirk was some kind of secret martyr for the anti-Israel cause, when in fact he was not.
As for the letter itself, it essentially has two parts to it. The first part is Charlie kvetching. No, literally, he uses that word verbatim, about how Israel is bleeding out support in America and how hard it is to deal with all of the questions he gets from dissenters. The second part, and more revealing in my opinion, is a set of 7 different recommendations for Israel to revamp their information warfare. Number 1, a rapid response media team. Charlie lays out how the Trump administration has a rapid response team, which essentially means people around the clock 24/7 monitoring social media to be able to immediately combat narratives. Number 2, a team of pro-Israel experts, which is exactly what it sounds like. A group of professionals dedicated to fact-checking information in real time as it pertains to Israel. Number 3, Israel Truth Network. No, I am not joking. A network that would act as a one-stop source of information similar to that as a FAQ section to be able to debunk or dismiss the most common claims and arguments. Secondarily, adding that it could culminate into a news aggregator, but an extremely biased one for Israel. Number 4, a hostage tour in America. The suggestion would be to have some of the hostages that have been released in the conflict do a media tour, which is just emotional manipulation at the end of the day. Number 5, regularly doing street interviews in Israel. This one seemed the most odd of the group, but the idea seems to be humanize the group and get more candid footage coming out of Israel, instead of just non-stop combat footage. Going so far as to say it would be nice to see humanitarian aid dropped off in the US with the Star of David. Number 6, Iran. Very specific, but to the point. Charlie straight up says that Israel has to do a better job at explaining the Iranian threat, that it fell flat with conservatives, and the barrier of access to get American support for it is too high, when all they can think of is being lied to about weapons of mass destruction. Adding that Israel should be making their case 24/7. And number 7, the final one, treat Israel as a political candidate. Charlie seems to be making the argument that negative ad messaging is defining Israel, and they need to combat against it as if they were a political candidate, getting ahead of the accusations. With all of that out of the way, it really becomes hard to make the argument that Charlie was turning on Israel, and in fact the opposite. It reads as him begging that he needs help because he is taking so much heat in the United States for it, pleading for assistance so he doesn't feel like he is under fire 24/7. So much so that it's laughable.
Have you ever considered inviting some of the released Israeli hostages to go on a speaking tour in the United States? This could be very effective. We're like halfway through the letter, by the way. This is who Max Blumenthal and Candace Owens want us to believe was the second coming of Hitler. Israel needed to kill this guy because he was about to blow the lid on the whole operation. They couldn't bribe him, couldn't blackmail him, couldn't negotiate with him. He had to be eliminated. He had to go because he was too out of control. This is the guy?
Now, as much as I find the letter to track with what I believe to be true, There are still those who simply aren't buying the letter's authenticity. MJ Truth Ultra posting, "I'm sorry, but this letter just reeks and I wouldn't believe that shit even if Erica Kirk comes out and says he wrote it." But there lies an admission. If there is nobody that can convince you it's true, then it's not worth an attempt at persuading. Mel, co-host of the previously prohibited podcast, makes a similar statement, highlighting the oddity of Brad Parscale being hired the same day the letter is published, once again questioning its authenticity. Not that I find any of the people in this room to be particularly trustworthy, Andrew Colvette does confirm the letter to Bibi from Kirk is real.
Guys, we have evidence. We have a general idea of what happened. But I suppose I just, ask the man himself your view on all of this, because just you tell me, because I'm not gonna put words.
Is this letter verified? Is this letter true?
Yeah, I mean it's real. Yeah.
Why is there this idea? I'm gonna put it like this: Nick Fuentes called it conspiratard-ish that people were claiming Israel killed Charlie, and it was really funny. He was like, if Ben Shapiro died, they're gonna claim Israel did it, and they're claiming now that Nick Fuentes got the call, like Israel called him and told him to. Yeah. It's crazy in my opinion, but I'm curious why you think people are pushing this and just what the truth is.
I think Charlie's views on Israel were nuanced. There's no doubt about it. He was frustrated. He was, I talked about this with Alex Clark's podcast, Cultural Apothecary, and I don't know, it's got millions of views or something like that. She told me. Yeah, I mean, listen, he for Charlie, it was very clear. He wanted people who controlled the Holy Land to be civilized people. He didn't want it to be in the hands of Islam, for example, right? Charlie looked at it as like, we have a civilized group that is friendly to the West, and we have uncivilized, basically. We have these Muslim nations that are very hostile. A lot of them are openly terrorists, right? Towards Israel, towards America. Who would you rather have control of the Holy Land? That was one really basic thing, right?
For someone who has been covering this side of the right wing for the better part of a year now, I had said at the first jump that it was hard for me to buy the Charlie was noticing narrative from simply how many hours of media I have consumed from that man, watching him continuously place Israel over America and act as an asset for them. And while I do think this places the vast majority of those rumors to bed, I would still be inclined to see if Candace does indeed possess an alternate version of the letter. However, if she did, she definitely would have published it by now. And as it sits, it appears that Nick has indeed been vindicated once again. But I will add, if this was published by Netanyahu and we don't get the version directly from Charlie's side, there will still be enough room for doubt, as Netanyahu is in no way, shape, or form trustworthy. That is where I will leave it. Let me know your thoughts if I missed anything, and like always, I will see you guys in the comments. Peace.
Smash that like button.